Okay, in this video lesson, I want to show you some things with time value money calculations in Chapter 5. First, I'm going to show you how to pull up additional f of x functions, and then we'll work through some future value problems. So a regular future value problem, future value of annuity due, and regular future value annuity problem. But the first thing I want to show you and point out is if we look at the office button here, we click on this office button, and towards the bottom you're going to see Excel options. So you want to select that. On the left hand side under Excel options we have add-ins, so click on add-ins, and towards the bottom we're going to have manage Excel add-ins, and you want to select go. What this is going to do, it's going to bring up an add-ins box. So I would suggest making sure you have at least Analysis Tool Pack and Analysis Tool Pack VBA checked. The solver, that's up to you. It can sometimes be beneficial for a quantitative analysis course, but at least for this class, the first two selected. So you hit OK, and since mine is already in there, it doesn't have to upload anything, but on your computer you may take a minute or two before it starts the download and uploads the other functions. So what this will do is it will add a lot more f of x financial functions for you. Alright, let's do some future value problems. We're going to start off with a basic future value problem. So I'm going to select f of x, and under the category we're going to select financial. You can see there's a lot of different options. There's statistical, math, and trig, but for our purpose we're going to select financial, and then it gives us a list of all the different functions. This is where by doing the Analysis Tool Pack you're going to have a lot more functions now, whereas before it might have been like around 15 basic functions. But if we click in there and if you type the letter F, or you can scroll to it, you'll get FV, which stands for future value in Excel. So we're going to hit the OK button. And the first problem I'm going to do is example on page 113 of your textbook in Chapter 5. And this says, well, what if I invested $100 for 5 years that was compounded annually at 6%? So we're going to put in the rate as 0.06. We're going to put the number of periods as 5 years. We're going to leave the payment blank because we're not adding any money to the account at the end of a time period. We can put 0 in there or just leave it blank. I tend to just leave it blank. And the present value I'm going to put in as a negative 100. And let me explain this, that in Excel logic, it's a negative cash flow from your perspective when you're investing, and when you receive money back in the future, you'll have a positive value. So down here we can see the formula result, which matches what we have in the textbook. In the corner, lower right hand corner of that page 113, that blue box, it says if you invested $100 at 5 years at 6% interest rate, you'd have $133.82. Now, one other thing I want to show you is, let's say that instead of this being annual compounding, it was monthly compounding instead. So whether it's monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, we got to divide by the appropriate number of periods. And in the example where it's monthly, since it's 12 times a year, I'm going to take that interest rate and divide by 12. So let's put in divided by and 12. Now since there's 12 periods in the year now, and we do this for 5 years, if I go back up here and put my 0.06, put the 12 back in. There we go. And now we put number of periods is 5. We got to multiply that by 12. So whatever you adjust right here, you're going to have to also adjust here. So if this had been 4, we'd want to multiply the 5 times the 4 here too. And you can see that pushed it up a little bit more. So now instead of the $133.82, we would now have $134.88. That's because it's compounding more frequently. Okay. There's a basic example of a future value problem, and as long as in time value money problems, as long as you know 4 out of the 5, you can solve for the 5th value, in this case being the future value. All right, I'm going to hit OK here, and we'll bring up another cell, and we'll hit f of x, and notice financial is already there, but we're going to select future value again. Let's see this future value, hit OK. Now I'm going to do the problem on page 132 2, where this is an example of a regular future value of annuity, where the payment again happens at the end of the time period. So this is, saying for over this time period, it says calculate a future value of ordinary annuity of $3,000 a year for 4 years. So if we were to repeat this 4 times, and the payment happens at the end of a time period. So in this example, the rate was 0.08. Number of periods is 4. This time we are going to put the payment in as a negative $3,000. That is, we're adding $3,000 at the end of every one of these time periods. And the present value we're going to leave blank, but we can see our formula result matches up to the textbook when it has $13,518.33. So now, one other thing I wanted to show you is that this type function for a future value of annuity, if this had been a future value of annuity due, meaning that the individual made the payment not at the end of the time period, but at the beginning of the time period, what we're going to do is we're going to change this type to 1. Put that in there as 1. And what you notice is that the value, the formula result, it increased. And that's because we're starting at the beginning of the year, that $3,000 invested for 1 year at 8%, and that continues the next year. So it's as opposed to the other option, kind of just go back again, leave that blank. It's almost saying like we're waiting a whole year before we're even adding money to the account. So it happens at the end of the time period. But difference again, if I put in 1, that's an example what's called an annuity due. So the payment happens at the beginning of the year. And finance examples of this would be like paying your rent. Rent is typically due at the beginning of the month as opposed to the end of a month. So that ends our lesson on future value, and our next lesson we'll discuss present value.